For some people, longevity means living longer. But when we speak with women, they say, I don't want to live longer. I just want to make sure that the years that I'm here, I am as healthy as possible. So really optimizing for health span versus lifespan is our focus. Really, when we say longevity, we mean extending health span, meaning giving you more years where you truly feel your best.
New choices, new players, new models of care. You know consumer first healthcare is everywhere. For us to build the future, to see what's new, we gotta look at the world from a different point of view. Consumer innovation ain't going away. I say it's here to stay. Today it leads the way. We gotta drop the silos. We're all the same team. Experience, business, tech, and marketing. So join us now. Join the revolution. Consumer first health is the evolution. Status quo or like status no. Yeah, this is the healthcare rap. Yo, come on, let's go.
Welcome back to the leading podcast about consumer-centered health. We highlight innovators who are bridging the gap between sick care and well care, influencing change in the industry, and empowering consumers with cool new ways to engage in their health and wellness. We're also having some fun along the way. I'm Jared Johnson, and this is episode 468. Today, we have the Flava of the Week about Peloton's new research study exploring how targeted exercise can alleviate menopause symptoms. What's their goal of teaming up with ReSpin Health, and how does it transcend a traditional brand partnership? I'll talk about that. Then Andrea Corleto shares the story of how her own lack of answers led to founding Lyv Health, how to know when it's time to dig deeper about your personal health, and why women's longevity is both a blind spot and a substantial opportunity in the space. It's time for the awesomeness, y'all. Are you ready? Let's go.
Flava of the Week.
Peloton and ReSpin Health are teaming up to make one of the most under-discussed chapters of women's health impossible to ignore. Their new partnership, announced during World Menopause Awareness Month in October, includes one of the first large-scale research studies to explore how targeted exercise can alleviate menopause symptoms. This collaboration, called the PRESS Study, invites 500 Peloton members to participate in a scientifically backed program designed to empower women during perimenopause and menopause. This is one of the largest real-world studies dedicated to this population, one that has been historically overlooked and underinvested. In the words of ReSpin Health co-founder Ali Tumasova, what excites her most is transcending a traditional brand partnership and delivering something fundamentally different: evidence-based exercise protocols from over 100 peer-reviewed studies translated into actionable programming. Now, according to a press release, participants receive free access to curated workouts co-developed with ReSpin Health's clinical team during the 8-week program. These sessions focus on managing symptoms such as sleep disruption, mood swings, and energy fluctuations, issues that impact millions of women but rarely get targeted attention in fitness or research. Results of the program are expected in January and will inform a new Peloton and ReSpin menopause care program, providing ongoing access to evidence-based exercise routines and menopause support for all Peloton members. What's the consumer lens? Consumers are hungry for inclusive, science-backed solutions that fit their real lives. This collaboration acknowledges that health doesn't stop at midlife and that movement can be medicine. This is also a strong example of how trusted consumer brands can help normalize sensitive health conversations while delivering measurable outcomes. Historically, that balance has not been easy to come by, so I'm definitely cheering for this one to be an example that leads others to follow in their footsteps. Let's all commit to shine a brighter spotlight on every aspect of women's health and encourage trusted consumer brands to play a bigger part in that process. That's another way that we'll build the healthcare of tomorrow, and that's the Flava of the Week. Hey y'all, I'm here with Israel Crush, founder of Hyro. Israel, what's an easy to understand example of how an AI agent can help consumers in their health journeys?
A simple section would be the fact that instead of enrolling into Medicaid and proving that you're eligible once a year, you need to do it once every 6 months. Patients don't know that. So we said, you know what, we're going to get ahead of that and we're going to educate patients about some of those changes and try to get them re-enrolled or redetermine their enrollment into those programs to make sure that one, they're covered, and two, that the health system gets paid or reimbursed for those patients. So I think that's like a clear win-win where you create an AI agent that is proactively helping both patients and health systems with issues that they face and make, again, the journey a little less complicated.
Thanks, Israel. Visit hyro.ai for more information. That's hyro.ai, and tell them you heard about it on Healthcare Wrap.
Healthcare Wrap is sponsored by Zero. Whether you're trying to drive patient volume as a healthcare provider, boost membership enrollment as a health insurer, drive improved adherence rates in pharma, or deepen strategic B2B partnerships throughout the healthcare ecosystem. Cyril can help you with your go-to market efforts and growth targets, enabling you to reach the clinical and financial goals of your healthcare organization. For more information, go to Cyril.com. That's CYRALL.com.
The flow.
All right, everyone, let's get into the flow. Zane, welcome back. Let me ask you first what you hope to get out of this interview today.
Hey, Jared. I'm excited for this one with Lyv Health, focusing on women's health. I feel like, for those of us that are reading the news all the time, so much money is flowing to the space. There's so many new entrants and disruptors in the space. I know a lot of traditional hospital systems are trying to think about specific products and services to engage this audience. And so I'm excited to hear directly from someone that's doing this and how they've thought about it and what it's going to mean for driving more consumer-oriented care in our country and in the industry. So it should be good.
Well, let's get right into it. Let's welcome our guest, Andrea Corleto, founder of Lyv Health. Andrea, welcome to the Healthcare Wrap.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, guys. Really excited to chat and dive more into this.
We have a lot to cover here, so I think we'll just dive in because I want to get right to what you're building, what Lyv Health is all about, and there's a lot behind that, is my understanding, in terms of what led you to this space. So let's start with what you're building, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, of course. So Lyv Health is a women's longevity company. We were created actually by a personal need of myself. I have a chronic illness, spent years trying to figure out what was wrong with me, eventually got diagnosed and got on treatment. But even then, there are still other areas outside of sort of the traditional seeing a specialist and getting a medication that I wanted to work on across nutrition. What are some more other areas of risk? So this was very much inspired by that desire to want to help women get to the root cause of their symptoms, identify areas of risk, and get the care that they need. Nowadays, it's so hard to connect with the right person, particularly those who are trained in women's health.
Yeah.
So the way Lyv Health works is we operate on a membership model. When someone signs up, they get access to comprehensive lab testing, hyper-personalized insights, and telehealth sessions with clinicians that help them work on whether it is treating an existing symptom or condition or just optimizing to feel their best.
That's fantastic. Well, maybe I'll take a step back. What we've noticed doing this podcast now for 4 or 5 years, Jared, at least since I've been around, is some of the most successful startups and new entrants in health are all those that are being led by, call it innovators who are the patients themselves or who had an issue themselves. And so I can already hear the passion in your voice for doing this because you've lived it and you've faced it. So kudos to you.
It is so inspiring when you've had that problem, and it's sort of like, it's not just a business idea that sounds good on paper. It's something that I personally wish existed and I fully believe it needs to exist. And I think that makes a huge difference.
So how does it work for a user or a member, or patient who has signed up? What can they expect? Kind of like those first encounters or interactions?
Great question. So someone signs up on our website for the membership. We gather some of their information in terms of symptoms, goals, just to understand their health background. And then we help them schedule a lab test. They can do that through one of our member labs, Quest, LabCorp. Basically, you can go get tested if anywhere in the country, likely within 15 minutes of where you live. So we do a comprehensive panel that looks across metabolic health, heart health, nutrients, really trying to understand different areas. And then from there, we'll give them a personalized report that really digs into what do the biomarkers mean for that person specifically. A lot of times when you get a blood test, it tends to be, first of all, very narrow. And second of all, you get a page with medical gibberish. We really distill it into what does it mean for you and what can you do about it? And then after that, our members will have a session with a functional health specialist that will walk them through the results and talk about what they can do across nutrition, supplements, exercise, sleep, and potentially medications if needed. So we really become your partner on the journey. Depending on the membership they choose, they can meet with our physicians monthly, quarterly, annually. It really depends on the needs. And of course, we have access to registered dietitians on our platform as well, given that that's one of the areas that makes the biggest impact. So think of this as your co-pilot in health, like really helping you dig into areas of risk and optimize.
Well, and I love, Andrea, that you all are leveraging functional medicine. So I think the Healthcare Wrap every year does a predictions episode. And I think one of our first prediction episodes years and years ago is we called out how in the future, more people will lean into functional medicine and really trying to get at the root cause of issues as opposed to just treating symptoms and pain. And don't want to be too negative here, but I remember when I used to work in a health system, there were a few functional medicine doctors on staff. And, some people referred to them as like the crazies, right? Like, God forbid we run these, different types of tests to like really get at the root cause. And so, I think and also not to get political, but, where, the government's taking us here in the US, really focusing on more of that upstream wellness health. I think it's fantastic that you all have invested in that functional medicine piece. Wanted to ask specifically about longevity. And so I know, that's something that you all market yourself as, brand yourself as. Can you tell our listeners a little bit more about that? We've certainly seen it in the news headings, all these longevity-oriented startups and care plans. But what does that kind of really mean when we say longevity?
Yeah, absolutely. And that is a term that gets used a lot. For some people, longevity means living longer. That is certainly what sort of the Brian Johnsons of the world are trying to do. But when we speak with women, they say, I don't want to live longer. I just want to make sure that the years that I'm here, I am as healthy as possible. So really optimizing for health span versus lifespan, because women already live longer than men, but we actually spend 25% more time in poor health, as women are more prone to autoimmune diseases, chronic conditions, navigating hormonal transitions such as menopause. And so our focus really, when we say longevity, we mean extending health span, meaning giving you more years where you truly feel your best. And that's our focus, and particularly for women's, but going deeper into these areas where hormones or autoimmune might play a role.
Tell us what inspired you to this point, what you're comfortable sharing in terms of your own story. You mentioned that's the key driver here. What are you comfortable sharing here in terms of how you got to this point?
It was a long journey. I think the first step is education. For a long time, I thought my symptoms were just part of being a woman, part of life, just sort of how it is, until I realized that it was not. And in my case, it took a trip to the ER to realize that. What I want others to realize is when they're feeling a little off, that's when it's a good time to dig deeper, right? That's when it's a good time to check, make sure everything's right. And then the second part is, even after I got diagnosed and got on treatment, I still had a lot of questions. And I think that happens a lot. We get a lot of women who say, well, I've done other blood tests or I've talked to my PCP, but I don't have any answers. And for me, it was like, how does this disease impact my risk of cardiovascular disease? How does it impact my metabolism? How are things going to look different as I age? And so I think having that, the word holistic, sometimes people associate it with like woo-woo medicine, but really holistic approach is looking at medicine, nutrition, supplements, exercise, right? Like we want it to be really comprehensive, because that is something that I felt was missing whenever I talked to the doctor. And it's really, you only have a certain amount of time with the doctor. It's not their fault, but there should be a solution that helps you look at your health holistically and optimize in all those areas.
What has been some of the feedback from your customers so far? Are they enjoying it? Is it working for them? I'm sure there's been stories come through, good stories of how y'all have helped support some folks.
It's been really great. I will say one of the most surprising things has been that we've seen women across all ages. So a couple of the case studies that we've done is, for example, we had someone in her, I believe it was late 50s, early 60s, who was pretty healthy, did the testing, turns out she was pre-diabetic, and we were able to catch it early enough, and she worked with a nutritionist to improve her diet, exercise, all of that. And a few months later, it was about 4 to 6 months later, she was no longer testing as pre-diabetic. So it was one of those things where like it was early enough that we were able to catch it, and because she was pre-diabetic, not fully diabetic, there was a lot that we could do to improve. And so that's sort of like on the top end of the spectrum in terms of age. We also have women in their 30s who have, because they have an autoimmune condition, we had someone who said, maybe I'm in perimenopause, I'm really tired all the time, I don't know what's going on. And when we dug deeper, it was actually a vitamin D and vitamin B12 deficiency. Very simple, right? Like you just take the supplements, improve diet, and it was really simple to fix. It's just that how else would you know without testing? And so I think that the really exciting part has been giving women the answers that they deserve to understand what's going on with their bodies. And that has really resonated.
I would imagine if there was a solution that made sense for you, you would have been like, let me try this. And you clearly said like, there wasn't.
There's two categories. One, there's the longevity companies. A lot of them do the lab testing and then they give you your results and they're like, good luck. Here are your results. Go figure it out. And so they sort of leave you to your own devices to figure that out. And we do provide that continuity of care. That is really important to us. It's not just about having the data. It's about doing something with it. On the other side, there's sort of the women's health companies. It's phenomenal that there are so many women's health companies across so many different areas. But at the same time, they tend to be pretty fragmented. You go to one place to get your prescriptions. You go to one place for menopause. You go to another place for your OBGYN. And so we wanted to really be the one go-to place where we can talk about hormonal health issues, and we can also talk about nutrients and supplements, and we can also talk about exercise. That's one of the big parts where like this is really sort of think as like what the PCP should have been in a different world.
Hey y'all, I'm here with Sina Arham, founder of Fridays Health. Sina, what do you think is broken in the traditional approach to metabolic health, and what are you doing to flip the script?
Let's be honest, the moment in metabolic health is being driven by the GLP-1 receptor agonist class of medications, right? We finally have something that is addressing metabolic health, obesity, and type 2 diabetes in an elegant fashion, right? It's efficacious, it's manageable for patients. And so I think we're having our moment in metabolic health in that the old guard of tackling metabolic health and obesity has a lot of stigma attached to it, a lot of shame and blame and guilt.
Thanks, Sina. Visit joinfridays.com for more information and tell them you heard about it from the Healthcare Wrap. You mentioned kind of like the longevity companies and then women's health companies. Why is this such a blind spot? Like what? And also feels like a great opportunity at the same time. Is that a fair assessment?
I don't know why it's a blind spot. I think if we look historically, women have been ignored from the health system, right? Like we were not included in clinical trials until I believe it was around 1994. Even nowadays, pregnant women are not included in certain trials. And so generally speaking, there's historically been a lack of research and focus on women's health. And so naturally, as the longevity industry is in its early stages, sort of the same thing is happening where women are being left behind. And so that's what we're here to change.
Tell us about your journey itself and kind of what's been the most rewarding part as a founder. There was a lot, I think it was on LinkedIn, where I first came across Lyv Health itself and was just interested in your story. We want to help acknowledge the work that it's taken to get to where you are now. What's been the most rewarding part of your journey so far?
I think the most rewarding part is honestly when this works for someone, which is often, but hearing real humans benefit from this. And I come from a background of working in startups. I was previously a consumer tech startup and then had my own startup before this. And what I've always found is that for me, working directly with consumers is the most rewarding thing. B2B SaaS is not very exciting to me. I don't want to help a company make another 5% more. I want to impact like real people with their health, which is the most important thing. So that has been really rewarding and seeing the excitement in the space. And then of course, just, it's the excitement of building. My co-founder and I have been laser focused on this, and it's really energizing to be working on something that you're passionate about.
That's awesome. Was there anything like unexpected about your journey that you just never thought you'd get into or experience or come across as you've been building this company?
I will say on the personal side, something that we don't think about is like as a founder in the health space, how do I also maintain my own health, right? As founders, we sort of move fast. We operate as if we're unbreakable. And every once in a while, we crack. And so something that's been very top of mind for me is maintaining my own health, walking the talk. If I'm going to be preaching that we should eat healthy and we should get tested and all of those things, doing it myself. And that's really a priority where I think if founders are taking care of themselves, they show up better. And I think that I'm a better leader and better with my team if I've slept well, if I'm eating healthy, if I'm feeling really my best. And so that's an area where like I'm really hoping to lead by example, which I guess in many startups, outside of the health space, maybe founders don't think much about their health. But in my case, this is really top of mind, making sure that everyone on our team is feeling their best too.
Very true. I think that's like just such a key thing to driving a good culture and ultimately performance. Surely it's got to impact your bottom line. I'd be curious, Andrea, and this maybe it's like too detailed of a question, but I'm sure people are wondering, is your services like HSA approved? Like, can people pay with their HSA accounts or FSA?
Absolutely. We actually are launching a partnership. People are going to think that we inserted this, but you read my mind. We are launching a partnership today with Float, which is a company that helps people get reimbursed from their HSA and FSA after checkout. So if someone has their HSA or FSA debit card, by all means, use it at checkout. For most people, including myself, that is lost somewhere in the closet. So anyone can check out using their regular payment method. And then after checkout, Float helps them get reimbursed. So totally FSA, HSA eligible.
Awesome. I think the reason why I brought up, I was looking at my HSA account to see how much money's in there this morning. And I'm like, wait a minute, there's some money here I can go spend on some stuff. So
yeah, it just sits there otherwise.
Totally.
What's your advice, like directly, if you kind of use this as a platform and you're like, consumers, especially, let's just focus on like women who are struggling to navigate their health and wellness journey, others who are finding themselves in the exact same spot that you have found yourself, and you know others are trying to navigate this in the same way. They're probably running into some of the same dead ends or some of the same points where you're just like, I know there's a different way, a better way to do this. If you're speaking right to them, like what's your advice?
The first thing I would say is that you know your body best. And what often tends to happen is someone might be told that this is just stress or that it's all in their head, and you should not take that for an answer. If you feel like something is off, believe that and find someone who believes in that. That is where the testing can actually become really helpful, because then you have tangible data to say, I know I was feeling off, and now this biomarker is showing that this is out of range. And that helps you get answers and get support. So I'm a firm believer in really like trusting your gut when something feels off and seeking those answers. And hopefully we can help with that.
What can you tell us about where Lyv Health is headed for the next 12 to 18 months, kind of where you're focusing?
Yeah, of course. Lots of exciting things coming. Of course, expanding, trying to keep up with demand and getting the word out there. And then we're also making progress on expanding our offerings in terms of really being able to recommend specific supplements, prescriptions. And so I think in the next 12 to 18 months, this will be a full suite where you can get everything you need to feel your best. And hopefully many women will be using the service.
Speaking of Zane here, real quick, this has just been like, as always, this is the reason why we have this podcast. Like, it opens our eyes to new solutions. We're continuously just impressed by innovations like this that are so focused and so different than what has been available to us traditionally in our lives up until now.
I think what I'm seeing, again, going back to one of our predictions episodes, it seems like there's now just a constellation of services that are going to be flowing around patients where they may not actually procure more traditional healthcare services. They'll have their membership with Lyv, their Whoop band, their Oura ring, or something like that, and using those things to then at least top of the funnel or upstream decide, what healthcare interventions they should pursue, and then maybe pursue their traditional primary care provider as needed. And so it's encouraging to see. It's encouraging to see things becoming very personalized now, very focused on specific segments. Obviously, here we're dealing with women's health, longevity. It's good. Obviously, there's a market need.
The consumerization of healthcare is really democratizing. In our case, what you would typically be able to access just through a concierge longevity doctor. And everyone deserves access to that.
What, maybe to help close us out here, Andrea, what gives you hope for the future of healthcare in our country? I know there can be a lot of negative in the way healthcare is structured here in the US, but what's giving you hope, or what makes you smile when you see changes going on out there?
I think it's really exciting to see consumers taking charge of their health. It used to be something that is sort of gatekept by the PCP or by the health system. And now consumers are demanding things and are getting access to data, whether it is their wearable data or their lab data. Consumers are much more informed. And sometimes it surprises me. I speak with someone and they are like, oh, I'm tracking my sleep, and I am tracking how much protein I take, and I am tracking my recovery on my Oura ring. And just, it's really exciting to see consumers just having that data and taking charge of their health. And I think that's only going to get better, especially as we help consumers not just access the data, but also do something with that data and get the insights.
We totally agree with you. I think that whole data piece, I feel like, is a bit understated, where, consumerism in healthcare, a lot of people speak to the financial side. So all these HSA, FSA accounts that have made it easier for consumers to go and pick which service they want. But now there's this data layer through everything that you talked about, through Fitbits, wearables, Whoops, Oura Ring, you name it. I have a body scanning scale right next to me. Don't ask me what it told me this morning, but your everyday people now are starting to see trended data on their overall health and wellness, and it's causing them to take action, which is fantastic, or at least stay engaged, right? So I think we're at the beginning of this. But over to you, Jared.
Yeah, I was just going to ask how people can find and follow Lyv if they want to keep up with what you're doing.
They can find us on our website, livhealth.co. So that is LYV health.co, or just Google Lyv Health and they can find us there.
Fantastic. Well, that's a wrap for this episode. Andrea, it's been a pleasure, truly, to hear your story and hear what you're building, and can't wait to continue following it and seeing the progress that you'll be making on your behalf, on behalf of those who you're serving here. We just want to thank you for everything you're doing to make healthcare consumer first. Thanks again for joining us.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me, and I love what you guys are doing with this podcast.
Thanks for being here.